Fresh and
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I am your host, Tommy Fresh, and you're all my buds, and today I am joined by one hell of a bud. He is Mr. Logan Petersen of the Flesh and Pod podcast. How you doing, Logan? How you doing, buddy?
Cheers, buddy. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, we are here on the eve of U.S. Nationals, and we got a good show for you. This is a long time coming. Logan is quite the bud, the friend, just an awesome dude, and I'm sure most of you already know him.
That's way too much. You need to pump the brakes there. You're pumping me up a little too much.
We'll pump him later. Right now it's all gas.
You don't want to clean that up.
But we're gonna have a lot of fun. We got some. We're gonna talk about some fun stuff about Logan. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna hit into the fresh faves, and we might even do some prop bets. Yeah, I mean, we might come up with some, and then we're going to talk about what we plan on playing in nationals. We're both qualified, and we're also going to be staying together in one.
Oh dear,
one hell of a packed house, which we can also get to. That might be better for a recap, but
it could be both.
Yeah, we will see. But before we get to all that, I do want to shout out the Patreon. As of now, I have updated the Patreon to reflect the new show that I will also be doing. It is a live YouTube podcast called The Bud Rush Bellow. Last night it would have premiered, hanging out with Gary. We're talking all kinds of nonsense. We're doing fresh fives. We're doing deck techs. I'm going to go into a full deck tech of the deck I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this show. If you want to go back and watch the video, it's a lot of fun. We introduced a new specific channel for patrons called the Romping Club. It's where you can hang out. You get a club membership. You're going to get a club membership in the mail, and you're also going to get access to that awesome little chat that you can hang out in during the day. But mostly, I'll be kind of thrown to it during the show also, which is a lot of fun. And still doing the freshies on there. And if you could check it out, it is in the link tree. Every little bit helps, keeps the mics hot and the lights on. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the Realm Games giveaway. This is I guess at this point, if you're listening to this, I might have announced the winner on Twitter. I know Friday is the day that I gave, but I also want to kind of shout out this Realm Games Fall Brawl, which is a 10K, got upgraded to Battle Harden, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what got harder faster, the Battle Harden or me, but it got upgraded. That's for sure.
Yeah, so there are a lot of upgrades going on, and especially over in Iowa with Logan right now.
I just want everybody to listen to your show. Do me two favors. If you're going to Columbus, do me two. Well, if you're not going to Columbus, do me one of the favor. Fuck it. So what I want you to do is, step one, listen to my show,
Sure.
Fresh and Pod or.
Flesh and Pod.
Flesh and Pod. You fucking goddamn it. Because we just are going to do one of these that's a crossover that's Fresh and Pod. And we're just going to call it good one of these days. And that's going to be it. It's going to be the four of us and we're just going to jam. But the other thing is go to the Realm Games website and buy one of their fucking playmats.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do, you get entered into a WTR Alpha Draft giveaway that you don't have to pay any extra money for. If your name gets pulled from the entries, you sit down and draft Alpha for free. $0 more. There is literally no other payment required. You can wear gloves. You can get an extra low seat in case you're worried about certain things sitting the other side of the table when you pop a cold foil. There's all kinds of things that you can do that are acceptable. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just buy the damn playmat, which is also sweet. It's a great looking mat, to be honest. And get entered into this contest to draft fucking Alpha. Like, come on, guys, get hype.
Yeah, I mean, this is I don't know, it's a very hard thing to do. They had one at Pro Tour 1 in New Jersey, and I can't think of any others like since the beginning of time of Flesh and Blood time. Anyway, it's really awesome. Yeah, all you have to do is buy the playmat. The playmat is really cool and spooky, and I mean, I'm into it. And yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm going to buy one. I hope I win.
Yeah, this is going against my best interest because I already bought one. I'm ruining my own odds because I want you to have the opportunity to do this as well because you are obviously Tommy's buds, and at that point in time, I want what's best for you, and the best thing for you is to be fucking drafting alpha. So do it.
Yeah, and I will say, shout out back to the alpha draft in New Jersey, a bud that I was staying with, John Bailey. Shout out John Bailey. If you're listening, I love you. He won the giveaway to get into that alpha draft. So obviously the buds have good luck. So, let's just keep it rolling. But yeah, no, it's very awesome. You can check it out. I'll put all that info into the show notes. And one more shout out. I mentioned the Bud Rush Bellow. Check it out. It's a new show. It's a lot of fun. A little bit less guest focused and more maybe just me being silly focused, which is, if that's what you're into, come on and check it out. It's on the YouTube, subscribe, and, you can get notified for the live show and all that. So it's a ton of fun. And finally, Logan, let's say hi to Greg. Hi, Greg.
Greg, how are you, buddy?
Greg is the new producer on the show. He's the best. We love him so much. And we might even shout him out later in the show, make sure he's listening. Maybe he'll have to insert some Greg, vocals into the show.
Greg kicks so much ass that I'm surprised that his foot hasn't got stuck in a rectum yet. The man is perfect. No notes.
I hate to say this, Logan, but I have to go to the doctor because it's stuck right in mine, but that is a joke. But we're going to get to the show right now with you, Logan Petersen. You're the final member of Flesh and Pod to join the show. We had wonderful Jordan, we had wonderful Abby, and now we have wonderful you. You're the last member to join the show, but you're also the member I've spent the most time with.
Yeah.
And we had a we had a time in Las Vegas, I'll tell you that. But before we get to that, I want to kind of get your take on how the trio of you, Jordan, Abby started, because we got their takes on it. Let's get yours.
Yeah, so Jordan and I have known each other for a long time. Pre Abby, for Jordan's sake, and we met playing Magic in Columbus at a TCG Player 50K event in 2012. So it's been a decade. What happened was there was a spot on where I saw Jordan. I followed him on Twitter. He followed me on Twitter. Said something about Flesh and Blood, and I had just started playing a couple months prior. And I said, "Oh, you that's dope. I'll see you in Cincy." He's like, "Holy shit, you play this game too?" I'm like, "Great, yeah, perfect. Let's hook up. Let's hang out." And so we did. And as we were hanging out, I think it was, I want to say that we began discussing a little bit about podcasting we were sitting at Rheingeist in Cincinnati, the brewery. Shouts to Rheingeist. They do good work.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day or somewhere thereabouts, we were just sitting at a table in the convention center. I'm like, "How do you feel about doing the podcast?" And Jordan was like, "Yeah, I'd love it. I thinking about asking you the same thing." And I said, "Okay, great. Here's my one requirement. Abby has to be on it." Because the two of us cannot be trusted, which is 100% true. We cannot be trusted on our own devices. Jordan and I will fill an entire room with hot air before sucking all the air back out of it, only to refill it again. And we would have 3-hour-long podcasts if Abby wasn't there to right the ship and usher us along. It would be a fucking tortured nightmare. When we agree with each other, it's a giant circle jerk, and I love it because he's got big hands. But when we don't agree with each other, it's a hot mess express. If we are vehement about it, it's shouting and arguing, ad hominem attacks, and then we need a referee. And Abby's perfect. She is the rock of the show, the most important part by far. And so without her, we would be sunk. And I recognize that right away. Jordan got exactly where I was coming from. And at first she was like, "No." And I'm like, "Then I'm not doing it." And Jordan's like, "Yeah, you have to do it." And she's like, "Well, fine, I guess." And that's how the Power Trio came to be. Is in that convention hall in the Queen City. Is that Charlotte? Fuck, I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
Cincinnati, whatever the hell it's called. It has a nickname, I'm sure. But that's where it came from. Is just the three of us kind of deciding to do it. It was. I have listened to their interviews. I will corroborate that was technically my idea.
Okay,
but Jordan had been thinking about it as well. It wasn't that it was an out of nowhere thing. And we had talked a little bit about stuff like that at the brewery before. And honestly, I just could not ask for better podcast partners. They're so good. And it's amazing because we all like different things about the game and about what we do for the show. So all of it just works out. We genuinely love what we do. We genuinely love our community, and we genuinely love who we are as individuals interacting with each other. I'm the guy that says fuck. Abby's the ringmaster. Jordan's the worry wart. We all do it, right? And it's amazing. So again, that's where it all comes from, man, is three friends wanting to do a fun thing.
Yeah, and it's something that I love, and the buds all know, at this point we've had all three of you on, and the buds, they know how great Jordan and Abby are, and I love that you all have a role, right? And I know that I know you're kind of simplifying it into you say fuck and
boiling it down.
you're definitely boiling it down, but you really do all have a role, which is like really important in podcasting. And this is something like I nerd out about in podcasting in general is, you can always tell when each host or co-host has a role. And I know you, we've talked about it. You used to listen, or maybe still do, Limited Resources. A Magic podcast, which is, was one of my favorite gaming podcasts of all time, because Marshall Sutcliffe, I mean, there's nobody better in my opinion. And then you get someone like LSV. The only other person better would be Matt
Flake.
Flake.
Yeah, it's Flake. Yeah.
But, in terms of like when I was coming up, like Marshall Sutcliffe just was a great steerhead for a podcast. And then you get someone like LSV, the expert, right? And it was almost like they took the dynamic of being in the booth and bring it to a podcast. And that's really important for cohesiveness. And that's what you guys have over there, Flesh and Pod. It's just like a nice cohesiveness. Jordan is the dreamer. Abby is the referee, and you are, you're passionate but with
I am a giant fucking circus is what I am.
You're a circus. You're the party, right? And
that's okay. Accepted.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, you're very competent as well, but you can be a competent party. All
right, fine. Cheers.
Yeah, we'll drink to that. Yeah, we're both drinking right now, which is all audio, but we are slamming drinks right now.
There's a running joke on our show where I always crack a second beer, and one of the other two will just go, "It's a 2-beer show." Well, the hidden part of that is like the multiple that I drank before I ever got on the show, but it's a running gag that I love. But that's it. You're right. I'm the party bringer. And the other thing that I think you touched on that is the most important thing in podcasting is be passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where you're coming from and be able to be passionate about that thing and have that discussion and not be. And the other thing that's super important and why we work is understanding that the other person is never coming from a place of malice, even if you disagree with them. And that disagreement is now a discussion. It is not a shouting match. It is not, again, the ad hominem attacks, which sometimes do happen because, well, fucking Jordan. But it really comes down to just this mutual respect of the parties. And quite honestly, there's nobody I can think of that I would rather have these discussions with on the planet than Jordan and Abby Kennedy, outside of, the select few like you and Flake and some of our community members are also great with this. But dynamic wise, we are all three different people that can do different things. And that's super important for our dynamic in what we do.
Yeah. And it's the sign of a healthy podcast. And I know that even, when Jordan was on, he mentions like, why I didn't even expect the game to last as long or the podcast to last as long. And you guys,
not even remotely,
despite your best efforts, it's still lasting for both instances, which is great. But consider to kind of touch on Flesh and Blood and its kind of longevity at this point, which feels, like when you guys started and when I started, it's like, you don't know, we were hoping, right? Because we really loved the game. And you came from a heavy Magic background, as you mentioned, that you that's where you met Jordan. What initially drew you to Flesh and Blood, and also like, why do you think it's become the TCG main character for you and a lot of other people today?
So the way I got started was an old friend of mine from Magic. He we both work at the same place, and over work chat, he sends me a message, and this is July of 2021, so not that long ago, a little over a year, and says, "Have you heard of this game, Flesh and Blood?" And I'm like, "I've heard it's expensive." He's like, "Well, right, but you do anything about the game?" I'm like, "No, I really don't." He's just like, "Well, I wonder if we can find a place to like play it and try it out." And so I immediately go to Facebook and just search and found that there was a local group that played on Tuesday nights. And I went, okay, I guess we can just do this. It was on a Tuesday. They reached out. And so I went and I drafted WTR. And my first instinct was, okay, this engine is sweet. I really enjoy this engine. I think it's built on a lot of things. I have a lot of questions about design space because I don't know where they go with this. But the engine itself is great. And from there, we started like kind of doing a little bit of research onto, okay, well, what's good? Like, what do people play? And this was the height of Chain. So I went, I'm like, oh, this is the height of it. Like, and I sat down, proxied up the deck and played it and was like, this is Dredge. What the fuck? Well, I love playing Dredge. And so I ordered all the cards and built Chain. Before I ever got to play a competitive match of constructed Flesh and Blood, Seeds of Agony got banned.
Ooh.
And I went, okay, this is the spot. This is the fork in the road, the crux, the crux point of my relationship with the game. What is my belief level in this game right now, 30 days in? And it did some soul searching. And honestly, if the limited format wasn't as good as it was when I first touched the game, I would have shoved it aside and not given it a second thought. Mm-hmm. And instead, my brain went, well, you think it's a good engine. You have concerns about the design space, but they might have plans. So I went the other direction, and I went and acquired a playset of every single card legal in this game. Rather than ever have my deck banned out from under me again, no. I will be able to build whatever the fuck I want, whatever the fuck I want to, and never have to care again. And I've stuck to that. I make sure that whenever a new set drops, I am set complete on release weekend, and I never have to think about it. That's where the belief level of this game came from, is the engine. And that's where it became my main game. Magic wasn't offering anything competitive and was really exploring spaces from other games. It kind of started feeling like Magic itself was grasping at straws and trying to figure out where it can get better and improve. But it's locked into its resource system. It's locked into the way that that it works. It's kind of become such a legacy product, no pun intended, that they can't make these wholesale changes to the engine. Whereas something this early, if there were like actual problems with the mechanic, they can say, yeet, fuck this, we're not going back to this, and call it good and move away from it. Like Starvo is one of those examples where Starvo, bad idea. And
terrible. Yep.
But Starvo LL'd, gone. We don't have to worry about it in Classic Constructed now. Living Legend format will eventually be a thing, but when that's a thing, it's probably going to be battle cruiser busted shit happening and bashing against each other. I'm all about that too. I would love to dust off my Seed of Agonies and play some fully powered Chain into some fully powered Starvo and some fully powered Briar and just play some degenerate shit eventually. But the game has managed to keep healthy despite some of the giant fucking mistakes. And I think that that's a giant testament to what the game can accomplish in its longevity. So that's got me all in.
Yeah, no, I definitely echo a lot of the sentiment about, Magic and what brought, myself to Flesh and Blood as well. But, I want to talk a little bit about your hesitation with Flesh and Blood, right? You were wondering, how is this design space going to be explored? And, right now we're over a year since since Seeds of Agony was legal. How do you feel about Flesh and Blood? I mean, we've had a couple set releases. We have Uprising, kind of in the full swing. We're about to get to Dynasty spoilers. Hope we both get a spoiler.
Unless that's if you're listening, Chris.
Not crossing my fingers, but
I say fuck too much. I get it.
But how do you feel about the design space? Do you have a little bit more faith than you did initially? Do you think that this is something they can continue to explore?
So yes, short answer, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tarek Patel, sorry, reigning Canadian and United States national champion Tarek Patel.
Never heard of him. No, I was kidding.
Never heard of him. Described this game coming from a Magic background in a very simple way that I agreed with at the time, which was Flesh and Blood is a game of lightning bolts and healing salves. It's dealing 3 and blocking 3. That is the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay.
And I thought that was their design space mistakenly. Now we have dragons. Now we have permanence. We have expanded ways to play on different turns, and then expanded ways to pivot decks within their own strategies. You look at the, spoilers are out there. You look at the new Wizard Aura, where it encourages you to play on your own turn.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't stop you from also playing on your opponent's turn. You just get to spin on that axis for a while and make them react. I think that's very cool design space that I wouldn't have thought of them doing. And same thing with like the dragons. The way that they designed those and made sure that like, okay, they have Phantasm, but you can attack them, but they don't have Spectra, so they don't close the chain, so that there's something you can keep going on. And then you put a real detriment to playing these giant battle cruiser dudes that are coming to smash face.
Mm-hmm.
You make an opportunity cost out of these things, and it improves the game's engine and expands your design space. And I did not see that. I'm not a game designer, man. Like, I try my best because we get a fuck ton of questions about how would you design this, or create this card or create this scenario, and we're just like, what the shit? Well, yeah, I mean, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna sound like idiots, but we're gonna do it. And we do. But at the same time, I know that's not my skill set. I know that's not my job. I'm very good at finding problems and correcting them. I'm not good at designing from whole cloth. That's why I married a graphic designer, so I never have to pay for that shit. But there's a lot of other reasons too, but I'm not going to say them on the podcast. And but it's that, right? Like, they've hired this insanely talented group of individuals to keep expanding their design space, and I love that they just keep proving me wrong. If they keep proving me wrong, my investment portfolio of Flesh and Blood's eventually going to let me retire. So great, keep going. I'm into it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I was worried when Dragons came out. I will say that. When they were like they're going to do Dragons, I was like, are we just going to get creatures from Magic again? Like, is this not going to feel like Flesh and Blood? And then as soon as I played with them, as soon as like I played my first Rake the Embers, I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to see Flesh and Blood LSS kind of really explore what they can do.
It's so crazy though, because like I'm attacking with this dude. It still feels like Flesh and Blood. I'm going 3 to your dome. It still feels like Flesh and Blood. How do they do that? They're fucking brilliant.
It's pretty crazy. I will say one caveat to that is Wizard sometimes does just feel like a burn deck, but it has a little bit more, I don't know, complexity, if that makes sense.
It's a combo deck.
Yeah,
it's a combo deck.
But I will say, when Dromai was spoiled and I eventually played it, and maybe you can tell me if you felt the same way, because we know we're going to get certain classes in this game. They've put them in the lore book. They even said we're possibly getting a new one in Dynasty, though.
We're supposed to be.
Yoji got spoiled. It's just another Guardian.
Baby.
He's kind of cool. He's
young only. It's fine.
Yeah. But I feel like when I played with Dromai, I was like, Necromancer is going to be the coolest class ever. Like, if it's anything like this, because like the way I'm seeing Necromancer is like, it's going to be Chain meets Dromai in a way.
Yeah, kind of.
And that's really cool to me. So, I don't know if that's something that you're looking at, like in terms of their design space now that you've seen what they can do.
Yes, I do. I think that it's going to be really interesting because I can see a Necromancer having some weird ability like banish a card from your graveyard with blood once per turn, banish a card from your graveyard with blood debt, create a 2/2 shambling ally that when this ally attacks, destroy it at the end of the combat chain.
Awesome. Already cool.
Perfect.
Yep.
No notes. Like, bring it.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun as hell. because it's an ally. You can attack it if they can't attack with it. On the other hand, it's like, it's 2. Do I really want to invest into killing it or just take the 2? Do I block this? I mean, and it plays into Guardian differently because Guardian can have like a stalagmite and block it and just start taxing your turn. I mean, like, that design space is so open. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I'm very excited to see what they have. Dynasty, I don't know what that third character is going to be. That new from the lore book, or I don't know if they said lore book or just one that we haven't seen before.
We've got, what do we have? We have Necromancer, Assassin,
Cleric, I think.
Cleric, Alchemist, is that one?
Alchemist is one. That could make sense with the Dynasty kind of theme.
Yep.
I don't know if it would be good, but I thought that would come in Everfest with all the potions. But hey, listen, if LSS is going to do anything, they're going to just throw curveballs all the time.
But yeah, rounding back to your Dromai question though, when I first played Dromai, I played against it before I played with it, and they played a dragon. I'm like, God damn it! Like, I guess wait a second, do I? Let's try this the other way. Here's six combat chain links at you. And they're like, block with my hand. I'm like, so you're going to attack for 3 a turn, and I'm going to attack for 12 a turn. I still win this. This is fine.
Yeah. And it does not feel as brutal as certain other illusionists that we had to deal with.
That shall remain nameless.
Yeah, we've talked enough about that illusionist, but
yeah, Light Mommy went to the glue factory. We're gonna let her go.
Yep. So, I'm glad that after spending time with you, it was easy to see that we're pretty much on the same page about a lot of different things, and I do want to talk a little bit about. We've spent some time together, and we have a collective group of friends that I think we've made, and it's like very mutual, and I think it's important to discuss the camaraderie that comes from this game, and kind of like how close people have come, and maybe we are in some kind of bubble, but it seems to be this way in everywhere that in any place that I play the game, any different armory, because I can go to like 8 different armories within an hour from me, and it's always a close knit of people, and that's something I didn't experience in other games. And I was wondering if you find that that's the same, and where do you think that comes from, if so?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like it's a set of umbrellas. Like, there's one big umbrella, which is the flesh and blood community, which is in and of itself great. There obviously are the salt logs, as has become the preferred norm from Talishar, which reminds me of the old days of Moto people just salting off, and yeah, whatever, dude. But there's a giant umbrella of flesh and blood, which I just kind of equate to flesh and blood Twitter, which is the most wholesome place in Twitter. I mean, low bar. Yeah. Twitter's a cesspool. I get it. However, it's still really good. There's very little in flesh and blood Twitter that's objectionable. Everybody's really cool to each other. There's civilized discussion. There's not a bunch of just finger pointing and anger or anything else. It's just everybody's capable of nuanced thought, which is nice. And then you kind of break it down to these intersecting, you call them bubbles, umbrellas, whatever you want to call them, because there's, and I taught, we had Flake on our podcast yesterday, current episode of Flesh and Pod. You should check it out on all podcast platforms.
Check it out.
But it's like family. It's really, really weird because it feels like we all have the same, great grandfather or whatever. And then we're all just related via these other things. So there's the Flesh and Pod family. There's the Fresh and Buds family. There's the Instant Speed family. There's the cosplay community. And we all have these intersecting Venn diagram circles that are all part of the same thing. And it turns into this weird mass community of people who are just like, somebody because you know somebody else. And that's automatically good enough. And there's nobody that feels like they're above anybody else. Everybody's just ready to be cool and hang out and chill with whoever. And that is so different than most places where there's this kind of this elitism that we just don't see. It really doesn't exist. Everybody's ready to be cool with everybody, which is just so different. And if it ever changes, I'm going to find the fucking person that fucked this up, and I might just kill them. Just saying.
I don't think it's going to change. I think that But I think it kind of started with, and this might sound, I don't know, not self-righteous, but like I think it started with us content creators, right? Because I think we all felt not accepted before, right? At least I know I have, and like in other games, right? Like in like a large scale, and you're like, well, I'm in this new game that I really love already, and it seems very chill, very cool. People are just happy to play it. I know that I was like, I don't want this to go the route of other communities, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it might be unfair to even like things like Magic, right? I mean, that community dates back to the early 90s, right? It's like they were doomed to begin with when like social media,
pre-internet, right?
Yeah, pre-internet.
They're
like
not from the internet, man. Neither am I. I'm 42. Sometimes my balls hit the toilet water. It's not great.
Oh my God. Well, we're gonna have to clean those, but I think that's kind of where we're at. Where we're like, I think a lot of us, and maybe not all of us, but I think a lot of us are conscious in a way that we want this community to continue to be as wholesome as it is. Because if it's not, it doesn't. It's just not good for the game. And we love this game. So
I want to also point out that wholesome does not mean the dictionary definition of wholesome.
Sure,
it means we treat everybody like human beings while drunk.
Yeah.
So that's an important distinction there, because we are degenerate, but in the fun ways of being degenerate, not in the cringe. Well, okay, never mind. I do exist, but not in the horrifying ways that people can be degenerates. We are the fun degenerates.
Sure. You're like,
that makes a difference.
We're the degenerate. Well, at least me and you are. We're the the degenerates that you're like, oh my God, it was the best weekend ever. I don't want this person near my children. But you know what? It's good for a good hang. But speaking of good hangs, when I think of you having immortal bonds with some people. Outside of myself, I think of 3 people, and I want you to explain why. And I think you've already explained kind of the first one, but I want to know if there's any kind of like deeper connection here. Jordan Kennedy, what is the immortal bond that you have with him?
Understanding. There are some very base ways that Jordan and I are a lot alike, and the difference being, hand to God, although that doesn't really mean anything. Scout's honor. Nope, wasn't a scout. At any rate, I generally do not like people who are like me in most instances. I understand in a lot of ways. I suck the air out of a room because I have a big personality and I can't turn it off. I get into a room, I want to hop on stage, man. I want to be there and I want to see people laughing. I want to entertain. That's who I am. Jordan is also that big personality, that boisterous, fills a room, and those people usually bounce off each other, but Jordan and I don't. Mainly because we understand what the other person needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the bond comes from, is knowing we're both narcissists of a different cut, and we can play into each other and understand that we're doing nothing but enhancing the other person's best qualities the entire time, or what we deem their best qualities. In a lot of ways, it's, again, we're being degenerate gamblers. We're sitting in a fucking speakeasy in Loudonville, Ohio, gambling on Flake and Jacob Bartram playing 9-ball. And which did happen, by the way, and Jordan had to pay me. So I want to point out that Jordan's like 0 for 5, I think. It's either 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 right now.
Basically,
he's
in
a
wagers
loser against me this year. No, he takes the wrong stakes sometimes. That's about it.
Yeah.
But that's where our bond really comes from, is there is a deeper unspoken understanding that we get each other. We know what the other person needs, and we also know how to talk to each other. We're not going to take offense to it. We get when there needs to be something said that it might be hard to say to somebody else, but we can say it to each other and it won't matter. It's fine. We get it.
Sure. And that all makes complete sense. When I see you guys together and when I listen to you guys together, that's almost the vibe I get. Now, the second person that I think you have an immortal bond with is Flake, aka Matt DeMarco. Where does that come from?
I don't know. So Matt is an interesting person in so many ways. he is somebody who, and this is another thing that's very important to me, and I think this is where we get from each other. I'm a person that learns from experience.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go and do the thing. If I don't go and do the thing, I'm not going to learn. And I think Matt is the same way. He wants to go do the thing. And sometimes that's going to make him fucking puke in a Wawa parking lot. And other times he's going to have something cool happen and he's going to be like, yeah, I'm glad I did that. That's the same type of personality I am. Try anything once. And if it doesn't work out, maybe don't try it again or understand why it didn't work the first time. Whatever it is, it's play to that. And Matt and I are also both very social animals. We both have that tendency to hop on stage and be our most outward personality all the time when there's people around us, and then have the ability to have those more intense, in-depth, one-on-one conversations with people to generate those personal connections and understandings. And Matt and I have had some of those conversations. And it's weird because a lot of times when I'm talking about that person that hops on stage, I just start saying Flake.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I start talking about having those deeper one-on-one conversations, I say Matt, because I see them as kind of two parts of the same whole, two sides of the same coin. And Matt and Flake are the same person. But one's a dialed up version of the other in one way and toned down in another. And then the script flips. And I understand that too. Like, I get it. My degree is in rhetoric, for fuck's sake. My degree is in speaking to people. I have spoken to rooms of 3 that intimidated me more than rooms of 5,000, because these 3 people can hold my fate in their hands and twist my balls off and feed them to me, and no one's going to punish them for it. But I learned something from that too. I learned to not be afraid. You just can't. You don't have time. And I speak about this a lot because it's very important to me. And I think Matt gets this too because of some of the things in his life, is that we have one currency in this world, and that currency is time. Money, fuck, I can get more money.
Mm-hmm.
Cards, I can get cards. What I can't ever get any more of is time. Full stop. And so to me, if I'm giving my time to somebody else, that is the best gift I can ever give. And the same is true for me. If you're giving me your time, the most criminal thing I can do is waste it. You'll never see me be late. I will murder traffic. I will go full Mad Max to be somewhere on time. No bullshit. Because if I'm wasting your time, I'm feeling like I'm taking the one thing that is most precious to you and you cannot get back. And I think that that's part of how we all think, is when you go through those things that really reinforce that, you end up seeing the preciousness of those things. And those are the types of people I want to be around.
Absolutely. And, hey, listen, that time is one of those things. I mean, something that the listeners don't know, but whenever I have a guest on, obviously I have a lot of guests on this show. The first thing I do when we finish is like, hey, thank you. Your time is valuable. Right. And
yes.
and folks like you, folks like Flake, they get that. Right. And that's awesome. Now, the last person that you have a mortal bond with,
is it Tommy Fresh?
Well, no, I already said outside of myself.
Oh, okay.
Outside of myself,
right,
we obviously have one. Is Elaine's mother, Missy? Can you please explain that one to me?
Whew. Okay. Well, so I'm going to put this in the best terms I can, because so Missy is. Okay.
For those who don't know, Missy is Elaine's mother, who is one of the wonderful hosts on the Pitch Perfect podcast with Melody, and she's been on the show. Obviously, you've known her from this show as well.
You had Missy on the show?
No, I had Elaine on the show.
Okay.
Not Missy. Ooh. Sorry. It was a tough get. She's out of my pay range.
So Missy is hyper interesting as a human. So she travels with her daughter to Las Vegas to go to this convention of just hardcore nerds that she really doesn't understand, to support her daughter. This is already ultimate and super cool. And that's not something you see every day. Then she comes out and hangs with us. And I'm like, and she is pounding booze like a damn champion, mind you. And I don't know who listens to this show. However, I have no shame in saying this. Missy is a smoke show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my God. She is, I don't think I'm spilling any state secrets here, but she's 55 years old and has maintained an incredible just sense of everything. Like there's nothing about her that is anything other than super cool.
Oh yeah.
She's a smoke show. She's super interesting. She'll talk to anybody. She loves doing things and is so much fun that like she didn't bat an eye when it was like, yeah, I need a martini, extra dirty, splash of pickle juice, 3 blue cheese olives. It's like, the fuck are you going to do with that? That was Elaine's order. But at the same time, it was just, and then just being, she just rolls with things. That was super cool. I love people that roll with things. But I don't think I have an immortal bond with Missy. It's more of a, how do you not see that and experience that and go, damn, ex-Calvin Klein swimsuit models, I guess, just age well. Holy shit.
Yeah. I just had to, I had to bring up Missy. And for the folks at home, for the segment in the show notes, I put blanks for all the specifically so that I could surprise you with Missy.
Yep.
But
I am going to add one in there. So I'm going to add one thing about Tommy Fresh. Because he is our fearless leader when it comes to this show. And there's one thing I want to really say about this, and that's the trait I value in humanity the single most is self-awareness. It's knowing who you are and knowing where you belong and knowing the people that are great to put around you. And there's nobody I know, or very few people I know, that hit that bar better than Tommy. Thomas, you are a genuine human, and I absolutely adore you for it. Never stop that. That is a trait that is sorely lacking in humanity, and you embrace it. And that's the best you can do. So just keep being you, buddy.
Well, I really appreciate that. And, I'm not going to get emotional over here, but back to Missy. I appreciate that.
I wish we need to get her on. We need to get her on a pod, though. We need to get Missy and Elaine on a pod.
God, that's the next big round table. No, and to circle back to Missy and kind of what you're saying, and this is just something I'd like people to know in general. Is like Missy is someone who kind of experiences life in the best way possible, right? You know, and like you said, she's hanging with her daughter at a card tournament, which is totally out of her element, right? Cards, trading cards were not a thing when she was in her, like, our age, it just couldn't have been her element.
Yeah.
And she is experiencing it. And then she's like, oh no, I want to go out and party with, folks like me and Logan.
We're just hanging in the Chandelier Bar with Missy, which is a bar inside of a chandelier for people who have not been to Vegas to the Chandelier Bar.
Yeah, it was intense. That was a wild night. But no,
there was a man from Vancouver that I think was very infatuated with you.
Oh yes,
so
I still have his number. I haven't texted him. Next time we're in Vancouver, I will be texting him.
Wow.
But thank you for the kind words, Logan. I do appreciate them.
Yes.
But without a doubt of mind, you know a side of me that many people don't know based on our experiences in Vegas. We rolled with The Rock there. You learned of my love. I love a good craft beer. It's my whole life. It's what
But the pride of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, is where your heart lies.
Yep. I can't help it. I'm like a shark, right? When the eyes turn black and like Finding Nemo, I see a Rolling Rock. I'm like,
I honest to God think that you found the last case of Rolling Rock west of the Mississippi. I have no fucking idea how you ever found that. We walk into the CVS and Tommy in the way down there is like, can we get Rolling Rock here? And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think they distribute west of the Mississippi anymore, buddy. He's like, damn it. We walk in this walk-in cooler in a CVS, and then I guess it's like a radar, like sonar or something. Like Tommy says something, and it bounced off this box of Rolling Rock that is stuffed all the way back on a shelf. Like it is 3 feet back. It is not visible by human eyes. And Tommy's like, wait a second. I think I see some green. And just sticks his arm in like Indiana Jones grabbing a fucking stone and pulls out this case of Rolling Rock. Like, what in the blue hell? How is that here? Where is this still fresh? Like, can we drink this? And he looks at the date and he's like, yeah, it's kind of in date.
Yeah.
Good enough.
You know what's funny about that? When you just said Indiana Jones, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking Temple of Doom, reaching through like the slimy bugs, to pull the lever. I was so great.
It was that. It was just like, what the? All right, I guess we're rolling with The Rock, and we did. We none of that Rolling Rock went to waste. No. Not a single drop.
No, we were there to have fun, maybe not perform as well as we'd hope, but it was a good time. Now, what are we getting into in Charlotte together? Now, we're going to take Charlotte a little bit more seriously. We have Nats. We want to at least
a little,
at least for the first day or two.
Like if I'm X1, I'm pumping the brakes. I'm going to limit myself to 6 or 8 beers,
sure,
and just enough for a vibe. If I'm like, if I don't day 2, it's whatever, man. Like we will, if both of us are dead, and I'm not feeling my deck and not wanting to play the calling. Well, that probably means a copious amount of 90s hip hop, along with beverages that range from Rolling with the Rock to Long Island iced teas, and just tying one so far on that we would need a bondage expert to get us out of it.
yeah. If we're both dead in day 1 of the Nats, the calling, we'll be calling an Uber home because we will not be able to drive.
Nope.
That is for sure. So no, I guess we'll look forward to the recap on that one. But
yeah, I think what we're going to get up to is some bluegrass, some beverages, and some good hangs. That's really all I'm looking for when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I know that Flake will be around too, and he's not one to turn down a good time. And we might be able to run back Topgolf. Who knows? Who
knows? Yeah, no, I'm very excited. And some things I want to get to before we get to the fresh faves and then our main topic.
We have a topic?
Oh yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about our decks for US Nats.
Okay, fine.
The people want to know. Maybe
I give the people what they want, even when it's questionable.
Yeah. Well, that's why we admire you, Logan. And speaking of Logan, what's the future of Logan? So something that I was thinking about when I was writing up the show was I'd love to get in the booth, to do coverage.
Yeah,
and I'd love to get into the booth with you, Logan, because I think it would be, and now LSS, if you're listening, we know you are. I think it would be the most unhinged, out of control coverage. Like, we get people complaining about coverage a lot. I don't think people could even complain. They'd be like, what was that? And I think we should probably give the people that. What do you think?
I think you're right. Now, I have been... So during the last Brawl event for the Realm, there was a spot where if I was doing poorly because I was playing Ninja, that I was going to hop in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
And instead I was winning. Oops. And so I never made it into the booth. I made it on coverage a couple of times in the team sealed, which I got obliterated. But that was fine because Jordan and Dagan were carrying me, and carrying me is not a small task. I am not a light man. but that was we built the decks for that purpose. That one is the bad deck, and I'm going to pilot it because my ego takes the least amount of hits. So and also we're just going to put the literal best deck we can build in the hands of our best player, which is Dagan White by a mile.
Oh yeah.
And
you got that,
and
right.
That worked out really well. We finished. We took a second place. We took a second place finish. We lost to a team that we actually beat in the Swiss, and that team was Michael Fang and Brendan Patrick. So
sure. I mean, hey, listen, no slouches there either.
No slouches. But I was going to hop in the booth. Now, Keith.
I know Keith listens. What's up, Keith?
Tommy and I are more than willing to take a shift in the booth.
Hey, listen, Keith, if you never want to get a Battle Hardened again, put us in, brother. We'll do it.
Baby.
No, kidding. You would be professional.
No, totally kidding. We'd be professional about it. But at the same time, it's like we could do that, and I think we'd have a good time with it. Sure. I think that ultimately, when I really stare at this, I'm a little on the older side for this group. And for this game, for the general population of players. But ultimately, I think that I would not mind trying my hand at the booth.
Sure.
I think that my mental capacity to play this game at a high level is always going to be somewhat dubious and questionable. But on the same token, I feel like I understand enough about this game to talk about it eloquently. And again, my entire being has been built into somebody that talks. I talk for a living.
Sure.
And that's what we do. And if that's what we do, then put me in the fucking booth and I'll talk for a living again. But I think that'd be fun. I think it'd be a good time to have, as Mr. Matt DeMarco puts it, Thomas Von Freshness in the booth with Big Sauce. So
what a combination. To go back to you talking about your age, you have a youthfulness about you that few can match, my friend. And speaking of matching, I don't know if that's a really good.
That's a bad segue.
That's a bad segue. But
C+.
I was talking to Greg, producer of the show. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
We should do some prop bets for US Nets.
All right.
What's some good ideas for? Let's do 3 prop bets for this show right now. I will start with one. How's that sound?
Okay. Sounds good.
The prop bet that I have is that Ethan Van Sant plays Dromai on coverage at some point during the weekend.
Oh. That's a hard one because I think Ethan's going to force Fi in draft and going to probably play Fi in constructed.
Yeah.
So that's, but there is this spot where you get past like a Necria in pack 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, for our viewers at home, Necria has a dump truck ass.
Yeah.
She is not easy to kill. And
not at all.
You see a Necria and it's like, I think Dromai's open. And maybe that's what the tilt, the change is, and it just so happens, and it's pretty even money that Ethan's on coverage, just as a general rule. The man is incredibly talented at this game with a recognition for patterns in this game that is hard to rival. He has played this game at a disadvantage almost the entire time by playing Levia. I know, but. And we had a long discussion about that in Columbus, actually, where he has broken up with Levia for now. They're on a break.
Yep.
Mainly because the way he spoke about it in a competitive standpoint without actually being in a, with a joking manner that we talk about a lot of things was, hey, you're going to lose, in a 7-round sample, you're going to lose twice to your own deck. You're going to blood debt and kill you. Like it's going to happen twice out of those 7 games, no matter what. And if you're in a split format and those 2 times happen to be at the front of that 7 sample, you're screwed. Like There's no 2 ways. So why would I put myself at that disadvantage in something that matters in a split format? If it's just a single format, absolutely. X2 is great.
Mm-hmm.
And, especially in like a day 1, fantastic. And that puts you in a good spot. And maybe you run on the hot side for the first few rounds of the next one. But eventually the law of averages is going to catch you. So it's a risk to play Levia in those instances, which I'm sure that very, very personally.
Yep. Hey, this is a little foreshadowing for later in the show.
And that has moved him away from that in these types of situations. And listening to him talk about that, I was like, Jesus, I am so fucking stupid. Oh my God, I am a dumb bastard because this is just a clinic. But he's right. And so I think I think he's going to show up with if I were guessing, it would be Oldham or Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that he's going to try to force Fi in draft, but I would like the prop bet of Dromai. I think I would say, what kind of odds are you going to give me on this prop?
Jeez, I don't know.
Ethan Dromai on coverage.
Dromai on coverage. It's tough, right? So he has to. I'm on coverage. It has to be on coverage. So you're thinking the first 3 rounds of day 1 or first 3 rounds of day 2, right?
Yeah.
I think it's most likely that out the gates he's going to force Fi.
I think most players are aiming for that to start.
Or actually, how about this? I think in the day 1, because I think the pool of players is not going to be as strong. Well, I mean, they're still going to be strong, but like they're not going to be the cream of the crop that makes
cut down. Right.
He is going, because he's a great player, he's going to realize that maybe he has to take Dromai. So I think it's a pretty good shot. And I think if he's playing in the first 3, I mean, he's most likely to see coverage in the first 3 rounds, as is anyone, because they are
plus 350.
Sure. Let's say that. Let's write that down right now. I'm writing it
down. All
down.
right. Write it down. Plus 350, Ethan Van Sant, Dromai on coverage. Greg, mark it.
Put
it in the book.
What's a prop bet? Well, actually, we'll just do one each. What's a prop bet that you have?
Okay. a pummeled pulverize on coverage.
Whoa. A pummeled pulverize on coverage. God, now you're making me do math.
It's a lot.
I'm going to say this is not likely at all.
It's not. You have to heave the pulverize.
Yes.
To make the 3 surges to take it down to costing 7. And you have to draw your hand of 3 blues and a pummel.
Yeah.
And it has to be on coverage.
And how many people are playing Pulverize in their Guardian decks right now?
Almost all of them.
Okay.
In testing, I had it done to me, which, if you want to know what it feels like to lose a game on the spot,
that's it.
That's the one. That did it.
Okay, so I'm going to say it is more unlikely that this happens than the Dromai Ethan on coverage.
But how much?
Probably like 4 times.
I think it's more than that.
You think 10 times?
I think this is a plus 3,500 bet.
Okay. All right.
I think this is 35 to 1.
All right. Writing that down.
But if you do it, congrats on the win and a piece of history, as that will be clipped and replayed ad infinitum for the entire history of this game.
Oh yeah.
It'll be right up there with the it's not your turn of Kano, where you just incinerated somebody from like 35 to dead.
Well, here's the deal, man. If this happens, right, on coverage, and then the player that it happened to ends up winning, that's 28-3 level of like New England, Atlanta. So,
or if you're a Browns fan, sorry, Jordan, this is a lot like them having a 2-score lead with a minute 13 left and losing.
Yep. So, looking forward to that. I'm glad we did that. That's awesome. Oh yeah. Now I'm
like, pummel a pulverize, but holy fuck, is it hard?
Well, folks at home, because we'll be playing at least for the first day. Please keep an eye on coverage and let us know if that happens. Either of them.
If I bet at it, then I might try to force it. But.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Next, we have the fresh faves, one of my favorite segments. I'm going to ask you a few of your favorites, Logan. Are you ready?
Oh, I mean, I was born ready.
Awesome. Who is your favorite hero?
It's probably Kasai right now. I don't really have that same thing that a lot of people do where they identify with a hero, that they have a main, so to speak. I guess that's kind of the subset of me buying in so hard so early and having the ability to do anything is I kind of just lean towards whatever seems like it's the best thing to be doing. And I guess in Classic Constructed, if I can't figure out what the hell I should be doing, I default to Katsu because it's the easiest deck to play that makes people just make bonehead ass mistakes.
Sure.
That allow you to just turn the corner and take tempo and never give it back. Kasai is probably the deck that I play the actual most when it comes to Blitz. I know a lot of people have a lot of different feelings on Blitz. I'm on wax about my feelings on Blitz. But for me, it's the flavor of Kasai is actually quite cool. And I enjoy it a lot. So it's Kasai.
It's a great answer and about what I expected. What is your favorite weapon or weapons?
Definitely not fucking the Rosetta Thorn. Fuck that piece of shit. I think if I were to just gun to my head right now, answer that question, and we are in America, so that's possible. Probably Sledge of Anvilheim because I'm having a lot of fun with that card right now. It's just hilarious fun. And I do like Sledge a lot. I think that if you were to, again, kind of bring it back, it'd probably be Harmonized Kodachis. I think Harmonized Kodachi is just a good old, fun in the sun. Everybody's cool with it. I'm coming in for one. There's nothing to see here type of experience. And it's just fun to play through that. And also sequencing with Kodachis is a good time. So honestly, it's probably Kodachis, although right now sledging people is just a blast.
Sledge is the only card for me that has made me reconsider playing Swing Big.
Yeah.
I still play Swing
sense.
Big, but I'm like, I get the.
It's maybe bad.
What is your favorite equipment?
Mask of Momentum. That's not close.
The card's awesome.
Honorable mention Carrion Husk because block for 6.
Yes,
but nice sledge, asshole. But the Mask of Momentum again, it's its own sub game which makes it super interesting when
Mhm.
there's a mass trigger happening and you present an attack that otherwise is just not worth blocking. And they're just like, I got to commit a card, a 3-block specifically to this thing that's attacking for 1 because drawing a card probably represents another 6 damage. Fuck.
Yeah.
And that it's too much fun for me. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, incestual empowerment. And then speaking of, well, I don't know if this is going to be the answer, but what is your favorite non-hero, non-weapon, non-equipment card? Your run-of-the-mill cards, instants, attack actions, non-attack actions.
So for pure flavor, it's This Round's on Me because
Hell yeah.
I don't think there's a card that represents me more than This Round's on Me. That's kind of my MO. But for an actual card to play, it's a tie. There are 2. One is Blood on Her Hands, and part of that is the art. The art of that card is chef's kiss. It is absolutely perfect. I have the playmat, so I have the bigger version. She's literally staring at a reflection in a pool of blood that she's holding. What the fuck is happening? And then for otherwise, it's even bigger than that. That card has bailed me out of so many shitty situations because it's like, well, I need a blue. And I have 2 hits in this entire deck for a blue that is a 0 pitch. Kadachi for 1? Yeah, no blocks. Great. Even bigger than that. What I find? Oh, Winds of Eternity. Thank God. Get my Quicken token. Fuck this. And then Snatch behind it. So Snatch is probably is probably rounding out the top 3. Having that pocket snatch is just so brutal at times. It's like, God damn it. Do I let this hit? There's scalers over there. Fuck me. So those are probably my wide breadth of cards that I love that are not equipment or hero.
There's a common theme with your fresh faves, Logan. It is math is for blockers.
Yes. Blocking is for chumps. So
Yeah.
we understand that our opponent has a face. Our job is to make sure that face is unrecognizable by the end of this. The entire point of this game is the card erase face.
Yep.
But like on a macro scale. So blocking is for chumps. Just block with your face. And hopefully their blocking with their face is more than the blocking you're going to do with your face. And as someone who is objectively pretty, it's very difficult to want to block with this face, but I still do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, it's stood the test of time, Logan.
The gray doesn't lie, man.
You got to lean into it, right?
I always have.
And speaking of leaning into it, let's talk about what we're leaning into this weekend with and our decks. Nats. I asked Logan if he was comfortable with sharing his deck and why.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
And I am also going to share my deck. You had probably already, if you had watched the Blood Rush Bellow last night, you probably already heard about it, but it's going to go a little bit more in depth.
Does it rhyme with Stavaya?
It just might, but we're going to get to yours first, Logan. Which deck are you bringing?
I'm going to play Oldhim. I'm going to play the Old Man, mainly because I look like they are on the card.
Sure.
But I'm going with Oldhim. Reasons that aggro control. It feels more mid range than anything.
Okay.
Because you kind of have a little bit of switch between to make sure that you can finish a match in time. You can't just sit back the whole time because, they're 55-minute rounds. If somebody else is playing deliberately, you can't just go full turtle and expect to win.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. But that's where I'm at is I think Oldham's still the best deck in the format. I am not the best player in the format. I am not going to eke out free wins with this deck. And I get that. And I'm not happy about it. I would love some free wins, but doesn't feel like there's enough free wins in any of the decks in this format to just rely on that. No. So I've got to actually play the game. I can't Starvo people.
Yeah. This is a pretty wide open format, and I think just playing something that you're comfortable with is probably going to be.
Oh, there's no comfort.
Oh, there's no comfortable. Well, no. It's playing something that you think you could maybe win with.
I'm going to go to question 3. Why did you come to this decision? Because Dagan White told me to.
Okay. Well, I mean, if he tells you, he's the guy you got to listen to.
Our understanding and our friendship is very simple. I will take care of the rest of this shit. You tell me what to play and write me notes. So we were sitting down to play test the mirror, and he didn't need the games. I did. And so we sit down. He's like, okay, so here's your equipment. Here's the deck. Here's where your sideboard. Now I'm not going to tell you how to play. I'm going to let you play it how you think you should. And then I'm going to tell you what you did wrong. And I'm like, well, thanks for the assumption. And after the shellacking that I took, the assumption was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, all right, this is what you do. Then I obeyed that game plan and beat the shit out of him and went, oh,
There you go.
right. You are smarter than me in this game. And it would be 100% remiss if I were to not listen to your advice or your plan. So thank you, national semifinalist Dagan White. I will go ahead and do what you tell me.
I mean, yeah, if there's anybody to listen to, it's Dagan. So that's why you came to the decision. Is it a specific list? Is there any spice going on that you added, or you just kind of like, I'm taking this and I'm shooting it with it?
I've done nothing.
Okay.
I have done actual nothing.
All right.
Dagan's process is amazing because what he'll do is he'll take a list, he'll start playing it, and he'll be like, this deck is great. Then he'll find its bad matchup and go, shit, I need to find a way to figure this out. And he'll make like 2 changes, play the deck, and he's like, okay, I figured that part out. Then go back in time and play the other matchups, and they're still fine, great. At some point in time, he'll play into a matchup that he just can't figure out how to win, then he'll yeet the deck and start on something else. And then as he's starting on something else, he'll realize that it was probably just bad. There's probably just some bad decision-making and variance. And then he'll yeet the deck that he has now picked up and then pick up the deck that he previously yeeted and start reworking that deck again. And then come up with a game plan for all the matchups.
Okay.
So in this case, there's really no sweet tea hidden tech on this that nobody's ever seen. It's pretty stock, but it has some really solid game plans. So it started with Oldhim, and then he ran into Dromai and was having a hard time with it. So he yeeted Oldhim, picked up Dromai, picked up Kadachi-Fi, worked through those a little bit. Then he's like, well, I still feel like I have bad matchups. What if we pick Oldhim back up? Oh, I'm just dumb. And these are the things I wasn't doing right in these matchups. Okay, fucking fixed it. And then made a couple of quick tweaks. This card is bad. This card's good. And then wrote out the entire guide for it. And that's it.
Oh.
And I really compartmentalized the last 3 months, roughly.
Okay.
Or 2 months. But he definitely spends a lot of time with it. He knows what he's doing. And he built what I feel like is a very good list out of this. It's, again, I don't think there's a single card in the list that hasn't been in any of the Oldhim lists so far.
Okay.
It's just quantities and game plan. Like, there's not a lot of spice, honestly.
And do you have any challenges that you expect this weekend with the dash? It's a real problem. Why is that? So
control dash is basically infatigable.
Okay.
And induction chamber just kills you.
Okay.
So you need, it's getting rid of induction chamber or getting them into a bad spot prior to the second induction chamber that breaks the matchup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they hit that induction chamber and you can't deal with them, or you can't deal with it or them in enough time, they're eventually going to grind you to dust.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the bad matchup. Also, Rhinar can just take all your blocks out of your hand.
And we're seeing Rhinar kind of have a Rhinar-sance, if you
never do that again.
We're seeing a resurgence with Rhinar, which is interesting. Now, what, Logan, are your goals for this weekend?
So it's weird. When I played Magic, I was never great, but I was good, if that makes sense. I cashed GPs. I never got to play in a Pro Tour, although I did qualify once. I was a kind of a menace in the early days of the Star City circuit for the classics and the 5Ks, but I was never somebody that got mentioned outside of Iowa, really, which Iowa was a very good Magic state. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never somebody who was going to be mentioned on any kind of scale. And that's totally fine. I don't regret that at all. Well, a little. But with here, I think it'd be nice to just have a finish once. Just to do the thing one time, get a PTI, go to Worlds, and just be able to lean back and say, you know what, I'm happy with what I did here. And so ultimately my goal, like my pie in the sky goal, is obviously to win.
Yeah.
I'm not going there to lose. But the realistic goal is goal 1 is to cash. Goal 2 is to top 8 and get myself a PTI so I can play in Worlds. The realism behind that is I don't know. I don't think that I'm specifically a top tier player. I can play with some of the top tier players, but I don't. I would need variance on my side a little bit in order to come out in that way. But I think cashing is reasonable. Is a reasonable goal.
Okay.
But the way that I approach tournaments in general is that the only goal that exists is the match in front of you, is to win the match in front of you, is to be 1-0 after every round. So that's my goal.
Yeah. That's a great goal. I think it's nice that you have tiers of goals is good, right? Because you recognize that, well, everybody wants to win, right? Everybody wants to win. I want to be the next U.S. national champ. Obviously, I daydream about it, but
I love the strap. I'd love to put the belt on. Is there a belt? There should be a fucking belt.
There should be a belt.
James. Why isn't there a belt, James?
There's no shot James listens to this.
Who knows?
Maybe.
You never know.
James, if you're listening.
When I found out that LSS was aware of our podcast, I was like, I'm not changing. I'm just going to keep saying what I say. Yeah. Fuck it.
But yeah, no, it's great. And I can empathize with how you approach it, because it is tough, right? And one thing is, like, a lot of the greatest players in the world, they have, they can also commit more time, right? You're very, very lucky to, be hanging with Dagan, which would be an awesome podcast name. Hanging with Dagan.
Hanging with Dagan. The podcast itself will be a little bit on the weird side because Dagan has one active brain cell and it's usually devoted to one singular thing. But at the same time, he's actually a super interesting dude. If he ever breaks down and just actually talks, you'll get to see some of this at Speakeasy. He's committed to not being just invested in the game, because at the last Speakeasy he was just crushing people in drafts over and over again and kind of missed the party. So this, although it was pretty funny because he kept beating the shit out of Dalen, but in this one, it's he's committed to being more social and less buried in the game. So you'll get to see some of the better, weirder parts of Dagan, which are pretty cool, to be honest.
Well, if he's hanging with me, he won't have a choice but to get a little
no choice. Get weird.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think Oldham's a great choice, right, for the weekend. It is the best deck. It has some challenges ahead of it, but that is the story with this format, which is great. I think
it's good. Yeah,
and I think any single deck could get there. Well, almost.
Not Azalea.
Let's speaking of almost any deck, let's get to my deck. Logan, can you guess what I'm playing?
I'm going to guess it's the blue cheese wielding brute Levia.
That is correct, my friend. I am so when Prism LL'd, I was at kind of a crossroads, because Prism definitely kept a lot of the worst matchups for Levia out of the format. And for the first couple of weeks, I'm like, well, I can't bring her to Nats. It just doesn't make sense. And then the format kind of settled a little bit, and sure, Oldham and Bravo are good, and I'm sure a lot of people are playing them. Well, Bravo maybe not so much, but Oldham is certainly good.
I've got question on Bravo, but Oldham is good.
Crippling Crush is a good card. I'll just say that.
But so is Oakenold.
Yeah. So when it kind of settled down, and sure, people are still playing those decks, a lot of people are playing a lot of other decks that they feel more comfortable with, because not everybody is comfortable with something like Oldham, right? And when I kind of came to that realization, I was like, well, I want to play Dromai, but I do not have the time or really, the resources right now to really
I can hand you the deck. It's built right behind me.
I have all the cards. I just don't have the time or the resources to learn all the different intricacies of that deck.
I did have Mara Ferris from Blackwind Studios was playing. I got to bird her playing Dromai into Dagan, And I learned so much from watching her play. God, so good.
Such a great player.
A great deck builder too.
Mm-hmm.
That I watched what she was doing and got an idea for it. And she was in a weird spot for the game. And then she's like, oh, I had dinner, I have to go. And I'm like, I can finish this game out. And she had pitch stacked so immaculately that a donkey like me sat down and finished the game with a W. So something, a 17 power ghostly touch was a little too much for Dagon. Yeah, it's that. Like, it's, I would not know enough about that. I wouldn't know that matchup at all if I didn't watch that.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing about Dromai. I think if I had maybe a couple more weeks, I probably would have sleeved up Dromai with some more reps and like some insight into the different matchups, because some of them are crazy, right? And I've been testing into Dromai and even kind of watching, testing partners like Isaac from Attack Action Podcast. He's like, yeah, this is crazy. Like, I'm still learning things about this deck. So that's why I'm on Levia, because I know Levia. And it kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of build a new version for this meta. And it's kind of cool. I'm playing some Hexagore Spice.
Yes.
But that's just for one matchup, maybe one or two. And that's old.
I'll bring you a cold foil.
Okay, if you have a cold foil, I'm interested.
I do. Okay. I have a cold foil Hexagore.
All right, we'll chat. Obviously, we're staying together too.
All right. Honestly, I understand, because if I had time, I probably would have played Icelander.
Sure, that's another one.
Quite honestly, I just don't know enough, and I feel like whenever I try to pilot it, I don't understand what side of the strategy I need to be playing on. Like, it just isn't clicking.
Yeah.
And I don't have time to work through it. But I've played the opposite side of the Oldham matchup with so many decks right now that I understand the game plan into most of it. And then I have this handy guide written to me by somebody way smarter than me. But I think, and to kind of just reflect your point, play what you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a giant advantage in these fields. It's 4 rounds of CC. And we've talked about Levia and how you lose 2 of 7. But if it's 8 rounds, you can go 7 and you can go 6 and 2.
Sure.
And if you end up X4 in the right spots, 2-1-2 drafts, that's probably top 32 with a look into top 8.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also something to be said about people not expecting it.
Not at all.
And I know there will probably be like 1 or 2 other ones out there, but it's a matter of, I don't want to show up and lose because I was not prepared.
True.
Right. I think that is a worse way to approach a tournament. I'd rather be so prepared and lose because it was the wrong deck choice. As bad as that sounds, I do intend to win. I mean, that's my plan. And I do think I have a great plan for all my matchups. Some are tougher than others. I will say Oldham is a tough matchup, and Bravo's no slouch either, and I know people will be on it. And because Carrion Husk, as we said, awesome card, takes care of that first crippling crush. The second one,
the second and the third,
the second and third, you're donezo. And I mean, we talked about pulverize pummel. I mean, that would just be the end anyway. But pummel in general is tough. But hey, that's why we have beast withins.
That's true.
So kind of excited. There's some spice just with the Hexagore. We got like a nice recursion package. The challenges.
You have some optimism there, right? Like you have. So look at Dave Rude, who called his shot, said, "I'm playing Mono Phi this entire time, and top 8'd."
Yeah,
it's not impossible. Like, it is a hostile field to be playing Phi into with Guardians everywhere and Icelander. But he said, "Okay, fine, whatever. I know my deck." And rolled in, drafted Phi again, called shot on every single one, and top 8'd.
Yeah,
it's not impossible.
And I hope more people are like him, because I actually do like the Phi matchup. It's
your Phi matchup's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 55-45, but that is a great matchup for Levi. So
you're gonna husk block so late at like one of those big like lava bursts for 6. You're like, and this thing.
Yeah, but the great Phi players, and I mean, I was playing with Craig Grempels the other day, and he handled me pretty well. He he saw my husk turn. He was like, well, I'm going to make this husk turn suck for you.
Right.
I was like,
Yep.
oh God. But
Fine.
But it's going to be an exciting weekend. And my goals, similar to yours, cashing would be awesome. Day 2 would just be cool because then I don't have to worry about the calling. I mean, that sounds like
We're not going to worry about the calling anyway.
yeah.
Like either we're going to be playing in day 2 or we'll be so shit faced that we're going to need to shave multiple dogs for enough hair to get rid of the problems that we are about to have.
Well, unfortunately, I'm one of the drivers at our Airbnb buds, so I need to bring those the people that are playing the calling there next morning.
They can drive. It's fine.
So
they can Uber. Fuck them. But we'll get some high noons, and so the hangovers won't be so bad if we like intersperse some high noons. It'll be fine.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't even know if that's in the rule book for the judges. We'll have to call a judge. Say, hey, listen. On day 1, we'll say, hey, listen. If things are not going so great tomorrow, what's the deal with the little hair of the dog? Like,
Come on.
Just
it looks like an energy drink. You'll never know.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we're doing this weekend, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to hang with you. I'm excited to actually meet Dagan. I've never met him.
Right. Yeah. I didn't really even stop and think about that until I was like, wait a second. You were in the last Columbus or last couple Columbus things. Like you probably have never actually like when in New Jersey, Dagan was busy wrecking face in day 1 and shitting the bed on day 2, but you never got to meet him there, and you weren't at the brawl in Columbus in July or whatever it was where Dagan was as well. So yeah, I guess you two have never really interacted, right?
And I'm excited, and I'm gonna get him to open up a little bit, and I want to pitch hanging with Dagan like 20 million times.
Hanging with Dagan.
But Logan,
put him on the bellows.
Yeah, put him out. Hey, listen, it's coming. Logan, this has been obviously a absolute pleasure. You're one of my greatest buds in this game, and I'm glad that it's going to continue to be so. And I'm glad that you came on.
It's a treat and a delight.
Well, so are you, my friend. I would love for you right now to plug anything that you'd like to plug. Also, thank you.
Yeah. You can listen to me weekly, Tuesdays, on Flesh and Pod, which is a batshit crazy podcast of which I am the least important member. Tommy got the order pretty close to right. He should have had Abby on first, but whatever. And
scheduling
you can also you can also find me on Twitter at Logan Petersen, where I tweet about Flesh and Blood and sports and gambling mostly. We also have our Discord. You're more than welcome to hop in, enjoy the conversation, just hang out. There's a lot of the buds in there, including Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
So please come in, enjoy yourself. It's a fun time. And we get up to some shit that I had to actually make an independent pickle channel because the pickle chat was overwhelming my general chat. So I had to banish Auntie Elaine to her own fucking pickle channel so I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Then I just muted the channel. So I don't have any notifications for that shit. No, I'm not dealing with that. But yes, you can find us there. And then we do have our own Patreon, which is patreon.com/fleshandpod. Feel free to come on and support us on Patreon if you so choose. We do have some really dope playmats that we send to our patrons. So please just check us out if you are into the type of things that Thomas Von Freshness does. We are similar in the bullshit sphere. We are not really an interview show, but we just like to really be a part of the community. That's really our biggest vibe is we're community people and we're here for the community. We're not going to deep dive into shit, but we are going to have a good time and let me be drunk on the internet like a fucking moron. Tommy, tell people what they can do with you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for the segue there. And I mean, before I talk about myself, please, everybody go check out Flesh and Pod. If you don't already, they are wonderful, wonderful people. Check out their Patreon. Check out those playmats. They're pretty sick. I am a big fan of them.
You can see them live in Charlotte.
Oh, yeah.
They are. I will have them.
But yeah, you can always still find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. I'm silly over there. I'm silly here. I'm silly everywhere, including the Buds Discord, which Logan's also in. Actually,
I'm in that one.
All the Flesh and Pod folks are, and a ton of other buds and wonderful people, and it is a great place to hang. The YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. We're ramping up stuff with the Bud Rush Bellow, which is a ton of fun.
Love it.
It is a great time. I'm super excited to be doing that along with this show. This show's not going anywhere. I love Fresh and Buds. This is my favorite thing, and it is a good time over there. And also something for both Flesh and Pod and Fresh and Buds. If you're listening on like Spotify or iTunes or Google, wherever, and you can rate or leave a review, do it, because that really helps us get discovered out there in the, when people, some people tell me, it's like, hey, when I started the game, I just searched Flesh and Blood podcast and you were one of the ones that showed up. We want to be those people. So yeah, do that. It helps us.
One of the things I quickly want to point out that I did not get to earlier was, and this is part of the community aspect again, all of the podcasts in this community just work together.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no competition. It's like, I want you to listen to Tommy, Flake, Combat Chain, those jackasses at Outcast Haven. I want you to listen to all of it, including us. And I will go on other people's shows and they'll come onto our shows. And it's just great because the community is just like, we want us all to succeed. There's no competition here. We're all just like, yeah, cool. Go do their shit too. It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, please listen to, Bud Rush Bellow is, you can't even.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild over there.
Wild.
Things are getting crazy. And if you like crazy, I want you over there. So,
and I am crazy.
As always, Logan, I always like to end the show talking a little bit about food. I know we both love food.
Ooh.
Tell me something you're enjoying right now in terms of food. Like something like maybe like you're like, oh man, I hadn't had that in a while, and then you had it again, and it's tasting good.
So I'm an Iowan,
mm-hmm.
and most people either fuck up and think that I'm from Idaho and that we have potatoes, or they understand that we are the land of corn and pork, which we are the land of corn and pork, man.
Sure.
So we're just coming to the end of sweet corn season, and being able to just drive to a roadside stand and pick up 13 ears of sweet corn, throw them on the smoker, little Amish churn butter. That is just delightful. And there are so many cool things you can do. Like you can juice a corn cob, and it basically makes what would be normally close to corn syrup, but just without the chemicals. And you can just make like a chantilly or a whipped cream out of it. That is a perfect topping. Yeah, it's just not super sweet. It's just because you don't add any sugar at all. It just gives you a nice sort of savory sweet on top of like a pound cake with some berries or something else. And then we can make some Brazilian corn fritters. Just take a Vitamix and blend that shit, blend up the kernels, a little bit of flour, and then cook them like pancakes. Like, fuck, man, it is the best time of year to be a corn snob. It is so good right now.
That sounds amazing. Corn's pretty great. And actually, you mentioned
you haven't had shit until you've been here.
Oh yeah,
it is not the same. I've tried other places, man, and it is not the same.
We're gonna go. I'm gonna go to Des Moines, and we're gonna party it up. We're gonna eat a lot of corn. We're gonna drink a lot of breweries. Also, you said butter. I just want to mention something I did tonight for dinner. Butter. Not everybody, but most people love butter, right? Butter's amazing. I saw something on TikTok. Sure, I'm hip. I'm on TikTok. I'm
not from the internet. Whatever.
People are doing these butter boards where they take butter, right? They spread it on a board. It's like a communal thing, right? You put like seasoning or like herbs and stuff on it.
Oh, sure.
And then everybody like hangs out and like kind of takes bread and kind of like basically just spreads it on there. I did that tonight with with Lady Fresh, and I don't know, it was good. I love butter. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
and I could think
infused butter is a big Midwestern thing, man. Like we will do all kinds of shit with rosemary infused butter, THC infused butter.
Whoa.
Which you want Danger Zone? That's Danger Zone.
Yeah.
And there's just so many like garlic infused, garlic butter galore. Garlic butter is unfucking defeated.
Oh my god,
that is so good. A good garlic butter, my god, just in my vein. I'd put it in my veins if it wasn't so good over my tongue.
Amazing. And you know what this is reminding me of, Logan? That I need to stop putting this segment at the end of the show, because then I just go, I literally hang up the phone and then I go eat something. But thank you again, Logan. You were an absolute delight. You're one of my best friends. And
Yeah, I'm really hoping that I supplant a Matt, aka Sin, for best loved guest, because that's some bullshit. The only reason, Matt, if you're listening, the only reason you fucking won it because I haven't been on yet, buddy. So, I no joke. Love Matt,
Oh, yeah, he's
love
the
Jeff,
best.
that entire crew. They're great, and you'll get to see them too. You get to meet them in Columbus in person, and they are a great hang as well.
Oh, yeah.
You will not be disappointed.
I cannot wait. But everybody, thank you so much for listening, and tune in next week for a Nats recap with the Visceri pillow guy. Who's he?
Oh, Gary?
So, but everybody, please have a great weekend.